Stranger Than Fiction movie review. So this movie is like a lot of Will Ferrell comedies. There's a lot of very funny moments in here, but those very funny moments come in between a lot of kind of long, dry, and not so funny sections. When the movie is all over and you kind of replay it in your head, it is the funny moments that tend to stick in your head. And this gives, at least me, a very pleasant memory of the movie after I finished watching it. But when I was actually watching it, it did at times feel like the premise is being stretched too thin over a 2-hour movie. I mean, it's an interesting premise, but it's kind of like a 10-minute gag rather than like a 2-hour long joke. Still, there were enough moments of comic genius interspersed throughout the film to make it worth sitting through. Will Ferrell does a great job of reacting to the idea of a voice narrating his life. And Dustin Hoffman is perfect as the eccentric university professor. So overall, I'd recommend it. It does kind of have its high moments and its low moments or kind of boring moments, but I'd recommend it overall. Nitpicking. I'm going to nitpick a few things about this movie that just kind of stuck in my head after I finished watching it. There's a scene here when Will Ferrell is trying to explain to Dustin Hoffman's character, the professor, about how he heard this voice in his head narrating Little Did He Know. And Dustin Hoffman said, "Did you say Little Did He Know? I've written papers on Little Did He Know. I used to teach a class based on Little Did You Know. I mean, I once gave an entire seminar on Little Did He Know." Now, I realize that this is for comic effect, but for some reason I just couldn't stop thinking about this. In real life, you wouldn't start with the smallest thing and then work your way up to the biggest one, right? In real life, it would be the biggest example, the whole seminar that you taught on Little Did He Know, that you'd remember first, and then maybe you'd work your way back to the smaller examples. Of course, I realize that the whole thing about starting little and going big is used for comic effect. I was thinking, okay, yeah, I know that's a joke, but does it work within the context of the movie? And then I thought, oh, maybe there's a meta joke going on. Maybe, you know, because this is a literary professor, he talks in literary devices. Maybe the film is more clever than I gave it credit for. I don't know. Okay, moving on to my second nitpick. There's an exchange here between the character of Harold Crick and Anna Pascal. Harold Crick said, "Miss Pascal, what you are describing is anarchy. Are you an anarchist?" Anna Pascal says, "You mean, am I a member of an anarchist group?" "Yes." "Anarchists have a group?" "I believe so, sure." "They assemble?" "I don't know. Wouldn't that completely defeat the purpose?" Yeah, so this is one of my pet issues. I did a whole vlog series on kind of the meaning of anarchy and how anarchism does not mean you're against organization. So admittedly, this is kind of pushing my buttons, and this is one of my pet issues that somebody else would probably just have let go. Although I really shouldn't complain about this, because even political pundits, like people whose job it is to kind of know this stuff, frequently get confused about what anarchism actually means. So I shouldn't complain that a Will Ferrell comedy got it wrong. I guess what bugs me more is kind of the smugness of it. You know, these writers who kind of think we're so much more intelligent than everybody else by pointing this out. What it really illustrates is a complete ignorance of the political theory of anarchism, but, well, whatever. Also, I don't think it works within the movie itself, if I'm going to nitpick this, because the character of Ana Pascal has her walls decorated with posters of groups like Food Not Bombs, which is an anarchist group. So the character as it's portrayed in the movie, of all people, should know this. Yeah. Anyways, okay, done complaining about that. Next little nitpick. Kind of along the same lines, during the same conversations between Ana Pascal and Harold Crick, she mentions that she's happy to pay the 78% of her taxes that go to social welfare causes. She just doesn't want to pay like the 22% of the taxes that go to the military. I think this is a big overestimate, and that I don't think 78% of the taxes go to social welfare causes. I think it's much, much less than that, and much more percentage goes to military spending. Although admittedly, this is really complicated. I got into this debate back when I was a college student, in a bit of a back and forth that went on in the school paper. And it turns out there are a lot of different estimates, and it really just depends how you jig the numbers, like how you classify military spending. Does veterans benefits count as military spending? Does payment to military contractors count as military spending? Does the interest on money taken out in previous years for the military, that which we're paying interest on now, does that count as military spending, or does that just count as interest on the debt? Kind of all these things. But depending on how you look at the numbers, War Resisters League puts out a chart which estimates about 50% of the US budget goes to military spending. Of course, as I just said, these numbers are a little bit complicated. They depend how you classify them. So other people estimate less. But still, I think the idea that 78% of the taxes go to social welfare is a huge overestimate. And again, it depends on how you define social welfare. I mean, if you define it as kind of food stamps and that kind of stuff, then it's a minuscule part of the budget. If you define it as kind of more social security, then admittedly it is much higher. Okay, sorry about getting sidetracked by all these political issues, which really have very little to do with the movie. All in all, a funny movie worth seeing.